Welcome everyone, I hope you're having a very wonderful day and welcome to my guide for Roosevelt Elk for Layton Lakes. Before we begin, I want to quickly break down on how today's guide is going to work. So our first section is going to be covering locations in a singular hotspot. Our second part will be covering weapon recommendations, and then we're going to end today's video with the animal profile. So let's get right into it. We're going to open up our map really quick and I'm going to show you guys where Roosevelt Elk like to reside. We're going to start up here in the northern section. To the right of this outpost at these four lakes right here, you can have some Roosevelt Elk. Further down, you have this big old lake, which is a recommended hotspot in my opinion. You can have them on the left and right hand side of this big lake. And further down, we have this stretch of river right here that kind of is in the middle of the map. You can have them up in here. I don't know how far they go, but I recommend walking up to this point of interest and making sure that there's no elk. My furthest point for them is right here in the middle. And then further down, we have our starting lake. And anything to the right of this is all elk territory. I don't think they can come down to the bottom here, but I do have it marked on the animal profile just in case. But that pretty much covers it for all their actual zones. They just sit all on this right hand side of the map. And if we zoom in over here, I'm going to show you guys a hotspot. I'm not going to be showing you guys any of the elk, but I am going to show you this location. So right here where this outpost is, I have to move my tent here. You have all these lakes within close proximity. Now if we take a quick look at these lakes here, we have one Roosevelt Elk zone here, we have another here. I used to have some singles that spawned here, but not anymore. And then over here we have some more elk zones. And then down here we also have another one. And this big one has also two. So I recommend just tenting up here if you're trying to farm Roosevelt Elk. So that's pretty much it for all the locations and hotspots. We're going to move over to the weapons locker and we're going to cover some weapon recommendations. Alrighty, so here we are at the weapon locker. Before we begin, I want to mention quickly three things. First things first, I'm only going to be covering rifles, handguns, and shotguns. I'll not be covering bows because I'm not a bow expert and I'll leave that to the professionals. Secondly, these are just my personal recommendations. I always recommend going out there and exploring to see what suits your needs and what you enjoy playing with in the game. And then lastly, I'll be mentioning all the DLC these weapons come from in case you want to pick them up for yourself. So let's get right into it. If you guys have already watched most of my previous other guide videos, and you've seen the moose guides, the yak guides, or any of the big game guides, you knew that this rifle was coming. The 300 mag tactical is my #1 favorite rifle for taking out big game. It's very accurate. It's got 5 rounds in it, and it's semi-auto, so you can play solid follow-up shots with it, and I can't recommend it enough. You can find it in the high caliber weapon pack DLC. Moving on to our only base game weapon, the 4570 lever action. This map has a frontiersman vibe, and I always enjoy using this thing on this map. If you don't want to spend money on any of these rifles in today's video, I recommend picking this bad boy up to use for your elk hunts. Now the only reason why I don't have it is because I use the handgun version, hint hint, for what's to come, but this thing is very solid, can't recommend enough, and I just recommend picking it up if you don't want to spend money. Moving on, we're going to be moving to our other frontiersman rifle for today's video. The .50 cap lock is a very phenomenal rifle. Yes, it's gimmicky, it's got a very long reload, you're not going to be placing any follow-up shots, but it's a very rewarding rifle. It makes you feel like you're Daniel Boone, and I just used it to take out my second diamond elk on this map. It's very fun. You can find it in the Smoked Barrels Weapon Pack DLC. Moving on to our final rifle of the day, the Malmer 7mm Magnum is the king of all the rifles for me. It's at least my second favorite. It's very solid. You got 3 rounds in it, you can place follow-up shots, and it's just a blast to use. I'm pretty sure it covers 4 through 9, and you can find it in the Hunter Power Pack DLC. Moving on to handguns, we're only covering one handgun today, and that is obviously the 4570 Jernberg Superior. This bad boy is a blast to use. This is the reason why I don't use the lever action one. I mean, yeah, it's got one shot in it, but you could still mount a rifle scope on it, which makes it very unique compared to all the other pistols in the game, and you can find that bad boy in the high caliber weapon pack DLC. Moving on to shotguns, we only have one shotgun today, and it's also a pretty big boy, the Strandberg 10 gauge. It is a very fun shotgun to use. It's got 4 rounds in it. It's semi-automatic, and it's just a solid shotgun. I just can't recommend this bad boy enough either. I mean, there's a lot of other alternatives you can use for shotguns for elk hunting, but this thing just has a lot of power behind it, so I can't recommend enough. You can find it in the high caliber weapon pack DLC. So that pretty much does it for my weapon recommendations for today. I will see you guys at the animal profile in just a moment. And here we are at the end of today's video. Before I let you guys go, I'm going to do a quick animal profile breakdown starting from the left-hand side, covering the Roosevelt Elk. Basic information covering class, difficulty, silver, gold, and diamond threshold. We have our weight from kilograms to pounds from least to greatest. We have our fur types covering common, rare, and very rare. Moving on to the center of the map, There's not much to talk about other than I did have a third hotspot zone at the very bottom of the map. Could be different for you guys, but that's where most of my Roosevelt Elk like to reside. Moving on to the time zones, where I have it all organized to make your hunting life 10 times easier, and then below that we have our ammo chart for full integrity kills. And that pretty much does it for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, please leave a like, it really helps out the channel. And with that all the way, folks, hope you guys have a very wonderful day, happy hunting, good luck, and I will see you guys in the next one.